Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are using the Johnson edition, and at no point thus far in our study have we been able to juxtapose two poems as clearly as we will now, 608 and 609. We just finished with 608. We turned out at poem 609. Our years had been from home, and right away we'll go back to our study of 563. You guys will remember this one, I'm sure, when we did it. I could not prove the years had feet, yet confident they run. Am I from symptoms that are past and series that are done? I find my feet of further goals. I smile upon the aims that felt so ample yesterday. Today's have vaster claims. I do not doubt the self I was competent to me, but something awkward in the fit proves that outgrown I see. Now this dance with the past and coming to terms with the past is always going to be a part of Emily's projects, and yet this dream, narrative dream poem, as it's been referred to, is quite remarkable. Published in 1891 with the title Returning, although Emily herself never titled it Returning. This is a very interesting poem. I'll not get into it with you guys, but she wrote two different variations of this poem, and the fact that she only lived in two houses all her life has something as well, I think, to do with this poem. Now, our assumptions that you followed our stuff at learnstrong.net and that you've already worked through the set of introductory comments in the preceding 608 poems. We just finished with 608, and as I said, it's fascinating because what is it that she argues in 608? She says, I am afraid of nothing. And yet in this poem, we're going to have a dream, it's almost like a nightmare sequence where she will run away. One scholar called this poem the abrupt fluctuations of a nightmare, end quote. Some read this poem as something having to do with Sue's relationship. Some read this poem as working with the fears and phantoms of the past. Some have even seen it as sexual. We'll point it out when we get to it. Now, again, the argument is, for Emily, do we transcend and include our past? Or are we rather unable to meet certain things about our past and we have to run away? We can't open that door. Notice the power of this symbolism of the house and the door. Our years had been from home, and now before the door I dared not enter, lest a face I never saw before stare stolid into mine and ask my business there. My business, but a life I left, was such remaining there? I leaned upon the awe I lingered with before. The second like an ocean rolled and broke against my ear. I laughed a crumbling laugh that I could fear adore, who consternation compassed and never winced before. I fitted to the latch my hand with trembling care, lest back the awful door should spring and leave me in the floor. Then moved my fingers off as cautiously as glass, and held my ears, and like a thief fled gasping from the house. Now, again, the sequence here is three parts, right? So she'll come up to the door, part one. She'll reach for the door, part two. And then finally she will run from the door, part three. Notice at the beginning that it's been years. And notice the repetition of I, brilliantly constructed in this poem. Years had been from home. The idea of whether you can go home or not is, of course, ubiquitous in poetry, right? What is it that Frost says in Death of the Hired Man? Home is the place where you go, they have to take you in. And of course, Tom Wolfe and the idea of you can never go home. Years had been from home. And now, notice, so now we're back, right? Before the door, notice home door, capitalized, face capitalized. I dared not enter. Again, this I dared not means she's afraid. Which again, how do you explain that with the opening line of 608? Afraid? Of whom am I afraid? Maybe we would say of what, right, in this poem. I dare not enter lest a face, notice capitalized, I never saw before, stare stolid into mine and ask my business there. Of course, this takes us back to 608 as well, in the porter of my father's lodge that she was writing about there. And then notice the quotation marks. In other words, this is what she will say if she opens the door and somebody asks, what are you doing here? My business, but a life I left, was such remaining there. In other words, coming back, is there any part of me in this house? Obviously, we're speaking symbolically here, no doubt. And then notice, I leaned upon the awe. We'll go from awe to awful, right, as the awful door in a little bit. I leaned upon the awe. I lingered with before. Again, Emily's transforming of a preposition into a noun is brilliant here. I leaned with before the second. And then her similes are powerful. Like an ocean rolled and broke against my ear. Again, this powerful moment of recognition, the potentiality that maybe she no longer belongs. I laughed a crumbling laugh. I think crumbling is one of the key words here, along with wince. We'll get to wince in a second. Is it a nervous laughter, right? Crumbling laugh that I could fear a door. Again, we're back to 608. It's amazing. She, in that poem, says, I fear nothing. Here, she couldn't believe. I'm afraid. You'll remember from 168, the awful doors, right? Who consternation compassed and never winced before. She'll only use winced once in all of her poetry, and it's right here. And then, now she's ready to reach out for the door handle of the latch. I fitted to the latch. The scholar Cody has read this as sexual. You can do your own research on this. I fitted to the latch my hand with trembling care. Notice we go from crumbling to trembling. Trembling will take us to 579. You'll remember when we did that poem. I had been hungry all the years my noon had come to dine. I trembling drew the table near and touched the curious wine. 'Twas this on tables I had seen when turning hungry home. I looked in windows for the wealth I could not hope for mine. I did not know the ample bread. 'Twas so unlike the crumb the birds and I had often shared in nature's dining room. The plenty hurt me. 'Twas so new myself felt ill and odd as berry of a mountain bush transplanted to the road. I think transplanted in that poem is a powerful reminder of this poem. Nor was I hungry, so I found that hunger was a way of persons outside windows. The entering takes away, and against the entering, the game that we're playing here. I fitted my hand to the latch with trembling care. By the way, she'll play the game of trembling in 1478, 1651. I'll let you run that one to ground. Last, she said I was worried. My hand goes out. I'm worried. Last, back the awful door. Now, what is up with this trembling? Well, you'll remember, or with the latch. You'll remember the latch from 390. You guys remember when we did this poem as well, I'm sure. It's coming. The postponeless creature. It gains the block, and now it gains the door. Chooses its latch from all the other fastenings. Enters with a, "You know me, sir?" It's amazing to read these poems in concert now that we're doing it together, isn't it? Simple salute and certain recognition. Bold were it enemy, brief were it friend. Dresses each house in crape and icicle and carries one out of it to God. When we get to 758, we'll play this game again. We'll come back to this poem a number of times. 758 reads, "These saw visions, latched them softly. These held dimples, smooth them slow. This addressed departing accents quick, sweet mouth to miss thee so. This we stroked unnumbered satins. These we held among our own fingers of the slim aurora, not so arrogant this noon. These adjust that ran to meet us, pearl for stocking, pearl for shoe. Paradise, the only palace fit for her reception now, from houses to palaces here," right? I fitted to the latch my hand, with trembling care, lest back the awful door should spring and leave me in the floor. Some have pointed out, it's an interesting, it wouldn't be on the floor, but rather in the floor. Is that like in the ground? Are we talking about dead? Is that what we mean? Then, the last part of the last movement. In other words, she says, I came right up to the moment. I was ready to unlatch the door and open the door, then moved my fingers off as cautiously as glass. It's an amazing simile. Like she didn't want to break it. And held my ear. So now we're back to the broke against my ear earlier. And like a thief, is this the robberies of 607? Maybe, right? Fled gasping from the house. Are you guys ready for this? She uses the word gasping once and only once in all of her poems. And it's right here. And it is maybe the central word of the poem, gasping. At 2a, I think her comment here is that sometimes the mind has to avoid things of the past that it just can't deal with. At 2b, well, the symbolism is obvious. The door, the face, the latch, the hand, the floor. And we've got all kinds of amazing types of things happening at 2b as well, right? I mean, the final stanzas, rhymes contain the R sound. Notice this, door, before, there, before ear, door, before care, floor. Amazing. It has an echoing effect, right? Hinting all the stanzas are somehow like unified. Then there's the final rhyme of glass and house, which kind of startles us by its deviation from its pattern, and of course its dissonance. Then all the alliteration, can you hear all of this? Door, dared in stanza 1, saw, stare, stolid in stanza 2, life, left, leaned, lingered, like, laughed, business before, broke, stanzas 3 and 4, crumbling, could, consternation, compressed in stanzas 4, fear, fitted, floor, fingers, fled, and glass, gasping in stanzas 4 through 6. And then we've got our assonants. Enter, lest, never, stanza 1, rolled, ocean, rolled, broke in stanza 3, latch, hand, trembling, lest, leave me in stanza 5, as glass in stanza 6. The consonants of from, home, before, door, dared, enter. I mean, it's amazing, the construction of this poem. Now, at 3/8, there's so many poems, guys, I could take you to relate to this one from Emily. I'll just give you a few. When we get to 624, we're gonna play around with this poem again. Forever is composed of nows. 'Tis not a different time except for infiniteness and latitude of home. From this experienced here, remove the dates to these. Let months dissolve in further months, and years exhale in years, without debate or pause or celebrated days. No different our years before be from Anno Dominis. When we get to 1182, we're going to come back to this poem again, and this will be the way that she will play it. It'll read like this. Remembrance has a rear and front. It's something like a house. It has a garret also for refuse and the mouse. Beside the deepest cellar that ever man should lay, look to it by its fathoms. Ourselves be not pursued. When we hit 1329, 1242, we'll come back. To flee from memory, had we the wings, many would fly inured to slower things. Birds with surprise would scan the cowering van of men escaping from the mind of man. When we get to 1329, we'll come back to this poem. Whether they had forgotten or are forgetting now, or never remembered, safer not to know. Miseries of conjecture are softer woe than a fact of iron hardened with I know. And then finally in 1657, Eden is that old-fashioned house we dwell in every day without suspecting our abode until we drive away. How fair on looking back the day we sauntered from the door, unconscious our returning, but discover it no more. Finally, in 3B to own a poem like this, what memories do you struggle to leave behind? And to what degree is reading Emily challenging you? Thank you.